Hey there, everybody. I'm standing on the corner of 9th Street and Broadway in New York City, technically Greenwich Village. And I'm going to go through a little tour of Greenwich Village today and take you all along with me so you can check it out for yourself. This will save you some plane fare for coming to New York, and you could just sit back in your chair and enjoy the view of the city. Anyway, what we're looking at here is Grace Church. It's a beautiful church, and it's one of the landmarks of New York. Not a major one, but it's certainly a little jewel of this area. But right across the street, we're going to start by looking at this building here, and this building here happens to be the home of where Joey Ramone lived from the Ramones. He lived in this building here. So technically, we haven't really gotten into what I consider the East Village yet, because I really consider the East Village east of 3rd Avenue. But this is technically the East Village, actually, because anything east of 5th Avenue is east. But I still consider this Greenwich Village. But that's just neither here nor there. The point is that we're starting here because this actually was the building where Joey Ramone lived here. So you can see and get an idea of him coming out and going to one of his gigs or something. So basically, it's a nice building. In my last video, where I toured some of the village, the West Village to be precise, and I showed you the house of Bob Dylan, where he lived in the West Village. I also showed a building that was kind of reminiscent of this building. It was the building where Buddy Holly lived in. So it's kind of like a little similar to this building. But anyway, we're turning right onto this building, and we're headed to Astor Place. Now, this was supposed to be a nice day. Actually, it was nice and sunny a few minutes before, and now I'm actually feeling it really like if it's about to rain. I just felt a few droplets or something. So I don't know how long I'm going to last here in the rain. But the point is that we're heading down to Astor Place here, and we're going to make a left. This is what's called 4th Avenue. So then we'll go into 3rd Avenue. Now, this Astor Place is the home of Cooper Union there, which you see that brown building here, which is a very historical building. But they also built these new sort of buildings here, which are pretty cool. So they're sort of like different change of pace for this neighborhood. And they redid all of this stuff over here by the train station. What's cool is a while ago they built this entrance to the train there, as you can see here. And they tried to make it look like it would have looked in the 1800s when the trains were first built. As you can see that, it's got this sort of very historical look to it, like that. So anyway, we're going towards 8th Street. And 8th Street actually becomes St. Mark's Place after 3rd Avenue. So you can see that that's 8th Street, and as you go down this area here, it'll turn into St. Mark's Place. Now, the Cooper Union is an incredibly beautiful and historical building. Abraham Lincoln gave a little talk here at one point. And I've always liked the architecture. It's actually a school of art and architecture and engineering. And it was started by a guy named Peter Cooper, who was like an industrialist. There's a statue of him on the other side of this building. Might be a good idea to walk behind there, but maybe at some point I'll try to get a picture of that in there. Anyway, this is 3rd Avenue. This is sort of where St. Mark's Place is, sort of a gateway into the East Village. Now, the East Village is by far not one of the nicest neighborhoods, or one of the nicest neighborhoods in New York. As a matter of fact, it's a bit run down and at places somewhat shabby. And some of the parts of the East Village are a little bit kind of like pretty, you know, well, let's just say they're not the nicest neighborhoods. But I will say this, the East Village is definitely one of the most funkiest neighborhoods in New York, and with a lot of history. It has a lot of tenement buildings in it, where a lot of immigrants came and they settled in this neighborhood off of ships, sort of in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they lived around here. There was also a lot of Germans and Jews and people from Ukraine. Now, in this boarded up thing, actually, there was a very famous clothing store called Trash and Vaudeville, because really this block here, St. Mark's Place, was kind of like the epicenter of like punk rock in New York. If you came here like in the 80s, let's say, and after that too, everybody was like wearing punk rock stuff. And there was a little store here, which recently just closed, actually, so there's a little bit of, you know, history that closed. There was a little place here, but now it's not there anymore. So if we walk down the East Village here, there was actually a sort of rock and roll sort of concert hall in that area there, which was called Electric Circus, which was big in the 60s and stuff. Now keep in mind that this history of this neighborhood goes way back, and you know, many back to the, you know, Jazz Age, and before that to the 1800s and so on and so forth. Of course, I wasn't alive back then, but that's where Electric Circus used to be. Now here, actually, just as a little personal note, was a little record store. It's not here anymore, but it was here for many years. It was called Sounds, and I bought a lot of records in this place. It was like right here. You walked into these doors right here, and you could get records. Sounds, pretty cool. It's actually kind of a historic building. There's a plaque there. It's a little hard to read, but based on the architecture. So here's one of the funky people you'll see in East Village. So now, by the way, I'll have you know that this neighborhood actually has become kind of very, let's say, Japanese. There's a lot of Japanese places. For example, you'll see this place is Japanese. Mamoun's Falafel is not Japanese, but this place is Japanese here. And it's kind of like becoming, here's some guys making a film right here.
All right, so I'm going there next.
So, a lot of little filmmakers, there's their camera. Here we go. So here's some more, here's just a pub, but here's like a Japanese place, because this neighborhood is becoming like a little Japan. It's like so many Japanese places. There's a ramen joint that it's really becoming kind of Japanese. It's turning Japanese. So, as I said, there was a lot of immigrants from the Ukraine, German immigrants, a lot of Jews around here as well. Of course, that's all changed. Now, actually, this little place on the corner, Gem Spa, which is all covered over with hats, but you can see it says Gem Spa on the back. So if you look on the cover of either the first or second New York Dolls album, you see them standing in front of Gem Spa. And this is the place, and that's exactly the place. They make egg creams here. They're famous for that. So we've just taken a right onto 2nd Avenue. And if you look across the street, we'll see a theater there. It says Stomp. And it's sort of like a kind of a funky sort of theater here. But that theater there, and many theaters all along and up and down this 2nd Avenue, this was actually the home of the Yiddish theater in New York City. Not a lot of people know that, but a lot of people do too, that this was kind of like Broadway for the Yiddish theater, and they had their own sort of music and actors and actresses and stars and things like that, and people used to come here, especially the immigrants, to this strip here on 2nd Avenue and see these things. And that was originally a Yiddish theater. So just so you know that. Uh-oh, I feel some rain coming on. So let's see, let's just keep moving. Now this right now here is like an empty lot. And that was because about a year ago there was a huge fire. You could look it up on the corner of, let's see, we were at 7th Street and 2nd Avenue. There was a huge fire in these buildings here. And 2 people died, and now they tore down this whole sort of corner here, and who knows what they're going to make. Here's a picture of some of the guys that died in the fire. This guy, Moises Lacon, and there was another guy, Nicholas Figueroa. So something to just keep in mind. Oh, actually, it's interesting because there's like a little record store somewhere on one of these streets, but I don't think it's this street. So we'll keep going. What I do want to show you is there's kind of a cool looking church over there if you're into churches. What I do want to show you is that on this block here, you've got
I don't even think that.
Rain's coming on. Still very overcast, and it looks like it's going to rain. These are the tenement buildings, which, you know, people once thought of them as sort of ugly and urban blight. But now there's a real character of this neighborhood, which it would be a shame if they tore these down. A lot of New York was torn down and replaced by really ugly, impersonal architecture, and you know, there's some real specific examples of that. But anyway, hopefully they don't ruin the character of this neighborhood, because, as I said, it's not the nicest neighborhood in New York, but it is one of the most sort of historical. But anyway, as I was telling you before, the German community in this neighborhood basically rented out a boat. By the way, before we go on, notice that there's this Taj restaurant here, and then if you look this way, you get to Malay Mark, and then there's Raj Mahal over there, and there's like, this street is known for being like having a string of Indian restaurants. So if you're in the East Village and you want Indian food, you can come to East 6th Street. Anyway, as I was saying, that the German community rented a boat, and they all went out for like what they thought was going to be a pleasant day on the water in the East River many years ago. And it was sort of, I don't know, maybe a steamboat. Boats were made out of wood, and a fire broke out there. Ooh, here's a nice plant. Nice house. So a fire broke out there, and basically many people died, including many children. This was a church that belonged to the German Lutheran community here back then. It's actually not a church anymore. It actually was converted to a synagogue, but it originally started out as a church. And basically what happened was that a lot of children died. Almost every family was affected, and it was so traumatic to the people that lived here. This General Slocum disaster, which that was the name of the ship, the General Slocum, that they all just sort of picked up and moved. They moved to a different neighborhood because almost every family was affected. So that's what we have here. We'll take a look at this plaque here. There's actually a plaque here which kind of describes it a little bit more, and it says General Slocum Disaster Centennial, 1904 to 2004. This is the site of the former St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church, 1857 to 1940, a mostly German immigrant parish. On Wednesday, June 15, 1904, the church chartered the excursion steamer General Slocum to take the members on the 17th annual Sunday Schools picnic. The steamer sailed up the East River with some 1,400 passengers aboard. When it entered the infamous Hellgate Passage, caught fire and was beached and sank on North Brother Island. It is estimated 1,200 people lost their lives, mostly women and children dying within yards of the Bronx shores. The General Slocum has been certified by the U.S. Steamboat Inspection Service to safely carry 2,500 passengers 5 weeks before the disaster. An investigation after the fire and sinking found that the lifeboats were wired and glued with paint to the deck, life jackets fell apart with age, fire hose burst under water pressure, and the crew never had a fire drill. Until the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, the Slocum disaster had been the largest fire fatality in New York City's history. So that was it, General Slocum disaster. As you can see, they actually didn't move out of the neighborhood right away, but I think it helped to sort of get them out of the neighborhood. Or anyway, that wasn't the only reason. I'm sure that they started making a lot more money, and as a result, they moved to better neighborhoods than this. Basically, little bit of New York trivia for you there, for all you trivia lovers out there. So, like I said, we're walking uptown. You got to watch out now. They built these bicycle paths in New York City. So, and they made the cars park away from them. So now bikers have a place that they can ride safely. And that is a very, very nice thing for them to do. So they don't have to risk their lives. Just riding. Here we are back at St. Mark's Place, which is kind of like, this is St. Mark's between 2nd and 1st. This is 1st Avenue. Let's cross the street on 1st Avenue and get a shot down 1st Avenue and up on 1st Avenue. And we're crossing the street. Now, keep in mind, this neighborhood has really changed over the years. There was a lot of places that I remember, sort of growing up around here that aren't here anymore. Like, we've got, there was a place there called Jaffa Cafe. That was a real funky place. It's not there anymore. But they had so many things on the, here's a St. Mark's Theater. I guess all these people are lined up to see the theater. And here you have some pretty cool old style architecture, which I really hope somebody preserves and they don't knock it down, because they knock it down and they put up these ugly sort of buildings that are like, completely soulless. And I'm not trying to say that these beat up tenements have that much soul, but they certainly have character. And that character seems to be lost when they tear down these old buildings and they put up these lousy things. So after 1st Avenue becomes Avenue A. Oh, look at this. This is pretty cool. Sort of a big mural here of what looks like, well, it looks like Van Gogh to me, but he's got both of his ears there. So I'm not really sure what this is, but it really is a nice mural there. I haven't seen that before. That's obviously a new thing. Anyway, so what we could have, one of the cool things about these old buildings here is the roofs. They used to have these great roofs, like for example, if you look at this building here and you go up to the roof, you see that they have these like beautiful molding things up there. So they don't do that anymore. A lot of times they take them off, but here's the kind of stuff that they tear down the buildings and they put up instead. Just really bland, like, I mean, I don't think that they do them this bad anymore, but you can see that even this building here, which is just really nothing special, just seems to have so much more character than this. This is depressing, but that's the way that I feel about these old sort of tenements. But anyway, so we're still on St. Mark's Place, which, like I said, is sort of like what I consider, I guess, the main drag of this neighborhood. And we're walking towards Avenue A. Avenue A, so the way that the avenues are set up in New York City is that, you have, starting all the way on the west side, you've got 10th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue. Sometimes you have some other oddly named avenues like Madison, Lexington, Park in between. But especially when you get uptown, where the nice neighborhoods are at, basically you've got those things. But when you, after First Avenue, you hit Avenue A, then you have Avenue B, Avenue C, and Avenue D. Okay, and when I was sort of growing up, actually this neighborhood was, back in the time of the immigrants, it was just like low, immigrants living around here and in these tenements. But there was a period of time where it was actually kind of a rough neighborhood. And now it's actually better because, it's Manhattan, and everybody wants to live in Manhattan. So it's still not even cheap around here. But they are old apartments, so you can still get them a little cheaper. But Avenue A, we used to say was all right. Avenue B was bad. Avenue C was crazy. Avenue D, you were dead. And Avenue E was the East River, since there is no Avenue E. So, but in any case, this is Tompkins Square Park. Okay, this was the scene of a lot of sort of important things in the 60s and in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like I said, this was really where a lot of punk rockers and, whatever, the Ramones and whatever, Patti Smith or whoever, they used to hang around in these neighborhoods. And then before that, all kinds of people. So here we are crossing towards 10th Street. Here's another shot of a typically East Village type of street. You can see the tenements. There's a lot of cool little shops and stuff that people open up along the way here, and bakeries and things like that. But we're going to venture further into the East Village. Like I said, it was sometimes dangerous, sometimes, but always funky. That's the thing about the East Village. It was always funky. There's a lot of other interesting neighborhoods. There's Soho, Chinatown, Little Italy, and what's north of Little Italy, which is now called Nolita, north of Little Italy, Tribeca, Triangle Below Canal, and so many others, other neighborhoods. Of course, there's the Upper East Side, which is very posh, and the Upper West Side, which is also very nice. And then you've got Midtown, Hell's Kitchen, Harlem, so on and so forth. But this is a nice block. This is 10th Street between Avenue B and Avenue C, and a little deeper into the East Village. And this block overlooking Tompkins Square Park here is, which looks like they're having some kind of a I don't know what they're having. What is that? Roller hockey or something? Looks like roller hockey, or maybe it's just sneaker hockey, because it doesn't look like they've got any roller skates on there. But anyway, this block overlooking Tompkins Square Park is pretty cool. I mean, it actually is a nice block. I mean, I would live here, no problem. I'd actually live anywhere around here because I like the East Village. It's probably because I've spent so much time here. But you can see, and I believe that Edgar Allan Poe lived around this neighborhood back in the 1800s. because so maybe one of these buildings here have a plaque that says where Edgar Allan Poe lived. So you can see here there's some city bikes over there, and these are nice buildings. You can see the character of these buildings here. So it's a very historical type of a place with Tompkins Square Park right across the street. Now when I was, a long time ago when I was in art school, I used to hang out around here on Avenue B, and sometimes we used to go out to this place. It was called the Life Cafe. Now you might be familiar with the Life Cafe because basically that play Rent kind of immortalized that place. By the way, this is an old public library here, designed many, many years ago. It's really nice actually. I think I'll cross the street. So the Life Cafe was like this really funky place. They had like poetry readings there. Sometimes they had live music. And this neighborhood was like, it wasn't like this neighborhood anymore. I mean, it was a lot more sort of a wild place, sort of like a wild place over here. So basically, the Life Cafe was there was books all over, and you could hang out there, and you could go ahead and have something to drink, and it was very bohemian. It was like very, very bohemian. Anyway, this is where it was, right here. So if you ever saw the play or the movie Rent, you know, it's not like it was anymore. They've sort of closed it down and built, I'm not really sure what they built here. I have to watch out crossing the street. I'm not really sure what they built here. It's not even called Life Cafe anymore. It's called the Maiden Lane. So, Maiden Lane Bagel Brunch. And it's really nothing like it was back then. It really had an amazing sort of like funky atmosphere to it. So here we are on the corner of 10th Street and Avenue B. There you see 10th Street. And here's Avenue B in Alphabet City. This is called Alphabet City. And they renamed this, actually, for you jazz lovers here, they renamed this Charlie Parker Place after the legendary and great saxophone player Charlie Parker, the inventor of bebop, along with Dizzy Gillespie and other really great musicians. And he lived right around here. As a matter of fact, he might have even lived here if my memory doesn't fail me, although I don't see any plaques here. But he might have lived right here. Oh, what's this plaque? Aha! Look what it says here. Charlie Parker Residence. Built in 1849, this brownstone row house is a rare and surviving example of a residential building built in the Gothic Revival style, a style most often used for churches. Notable details include the pointed entranceway with clustered colonnettes, the prominent hood molding, and a trefoil relief below the projecting box cornice. From 1950 to 1954, this building was the home of Charlie Bird Parker. He was known as Bird, of course. The world-renowned alto saxophonist. Parker was the co-founder of bebop, the modern jazz style that he and trumpeter Dizzy Gillespie created during the 1940s. And there's another plaque of his. So there you have it, Charlie Parker's address right in front of Tompkins Square Park. And I think we're just about walking down Avenue B right now, and next to Tompkins Square Park. So I think we'll just wrap up this partial tour of the East Village right now. And like I said, we've done about 1 or 2% of the East Village. So maybe we'll follow it up at some point with another video on the East Village, and we'll call it East Village Part 2, or think of some other clever little name that will draw hundreds of millions of users to watch it so they can learn about interesting places in New York, some music related, and others, how should I say, just of general interest that you might be interested in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little tour of a bunch of different places. And in the meantime, have a great day, and thanks for watching. And if you like this video, don't forget to press like and subscribe. And if you feel inclined to, feel free to leave any sort of comment, even a little hello, in the comments section of this video. See you later. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a little bonus material. In fact, this show's not over yet. As I was walking back out of the East Village, I came across this mural here. And this mural here has existed for a while. As a matter of fact, it has actually gone through a few different incarnations, but it's always been dedicated here on the corner of East 7th Street and Avenue A. Okay, you can see there Avenue A, and this is East 7th, devoted to the great rock and roll, punk rock icon, genius, poet, songwriter, performer, singer, guitarist, and entertainer extraordinaire, and general very good artist, Joe Strummer from The Clash. So it says the future is unwritten. 1952 to 2002, which is how long he lived before he tragically died at an early age. Know your rights. Okay, so basically, thought you might like to see that, a little mural devoted to Joe Strummer of The Clash. Here, I'll get a little shot of it from here. A little close-up of it as well. And you can see that it's on the side of this building, which is a little corner bar here on 7th Street and Avenue A. And right here, it's called Niagara. Here's another shot of Avenue A here. It looks like it starts going to rain again. I was actually going to let this run a little bit longer and walk down 7th Street since we came up on St. Mark's. I'll try to do that, although I have a feeling that this time, unlike the last 3 times, I have a feeling that it's going to really let loose and start to pour, which is too bad. This is a cool burrito place on the left, and you can sit outside. There you've got sort of like a Mexican type of look. There's some people eating, that's what they're eating. And you can see here that this is 7th Street. All of these streets here are basically interesting to walk down. Wow, look at this place. Turntable Lab. Here's a find. John Coltrane in mono. Wow. Look at this place. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to switch over to my phone since I've got a video camera, and I'm going to try to film this place.
Great, thanks. My space is limited.
Okay.
Can you just look it up?
Sure, man. We can look it up if you want.
Sí, 45.
You're welcome.
Ya, entonces, eso es todo. Nada de aquí.
So, it comes with a cartridge, right?
No, ya es lo máximo
Sorry.
de todo lo que es discos, todo lo que es toma.
Do you have it in stock? You?
Más que esto no hay, no hay.
So, I'll probably be back tomorrow. We're closed tomorrow. I'll be in inventory. I'll be open on Tuesday.
Ya, entonces se compra una bolsa entera.
And it's $249. $249. Yep.
Ya.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep, have a good one.
Ya.